Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome. I'm Jai Dave. So happy you're here. This is a special rebroadcast of the Turning of the Wheel webcast experience with myself and the great Robert Thurman. This was an event that originally everyone had to sign up for, and we're now rebroadcasting it here for you to enjoy. And we also have coming up this weekend a very special full online weekend retreat with Bob and with myself. And I really love this event that you're about to see. I love Tenzin Bob Thurman. I just think he's a gem. I think he's a treasure for all of us, and such a spirit of joy, such a spirit of love, and great wisdom. And so for me personally, it was a really special event to be able to go back and forth with him on the turning of the wheel teachings, on just the teachings of yoga and the teachings of Buddhism, the teachings that help us feel good, the teachings that help us connect to what is real, the teachings that help us to understand our lives, the teachings that help us connect to real, genuine compassion and what our lives are all about. That's what I think you're going to get and hear and feel from this experience, this Turning of the Wheel class. For those of you who don't know Bob Thurman, he is really has a rich history from being the first known Westerner that the Dalai Lama brought into the monastery. He was ordained by a monk by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I believe in the early 60s. Later on, he left the monastery, but he continued to really wield the sword of the Dharma and has been a great champion for Tibetan Buddhism for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And for me, he just has this very special way of contextualizing this incredible ancient wisdom in a way that is not only so relevant for us right now in these times, but really is timeless. And for Western minds, I think he does an incredible job of just giving us not really only a translation of the teachings, because he does himself translate many of the very important Buddhist texts, but he transmits the wisdom of it to me without losing the real juice and the real essence of it, because I think he himself is a great embodiment of that wisdom and that love and that joy and blissfulness. And I think you'll experience that coming through here as well. So enjoy the broadcast, Turning the Wheel of Time, and please do join us for the full online retreat. If you can't attend live the online retreat, it's also going to be all recorded and available on demand, and you can click through on the post here to be able to see all the details and join in with us. Enjoy the broadcast. Hi, greetings everyone. Hey, welcome to the webcast today, and it's a great blessing to be here with you, Bob, on this special time on the planet Earth, where we have a unique set of circumstances, I think challenging at some level, but also there's blessings inside it and at the same time. So I feel very grateful to be here with you today, and I know we have people all over the world who are attending with us, and I feel very grateful to just be here. Everyone, talk the Dharma, turning the wheel of time, and maybe you could start us off on that, turning the wheel of time for good.
Yes.
Yeah, where does that come from?
Well, to me, it comes from the problem of the Bodhisattva. And before I say that, though, let me just say I'm very grateful and happy to be here with you, Jai Dev.
Cool.
And I think it's really wonderful. I'm in Menla Retreat in the country, in the Catskills. And I'm in the sort of main room of the spa building there with the healing deities behind me in the Tibetan system. a Tibetan medicine Buddha, these kind of things. And we're completely quiet here because with the lockdown, no one can come. So to be with you and with all your friends and all the many people who have joined us is a great honor and a pleasure for me at a time of when we're sort of, it's like a rich community in solitude. I really, really like it. So thank you so much for working there and for being here with us. Thank you so much. So now the other thing then about the wheel of time, the Bodhisattva has a problem, which is that the Bodhisattva cannot become a Buddha, completely enlightened, free of suffering, capable of helping other beings be free of suffering, without everyone else becoming free of suffering. Because the Bodhisattva takes a vow, I will not enter nirvana until all beings are in nirvana. So then how come Buddha became a Buddha? And then there's millions and endless numbers of Buddhas in other universes. Also in this universe, there were 3 previous Buddhas. There will be 995 once after him, according to their cosmology, Mahayana cosmology. And how did that happen? And so the only way it could possibly happen is that one of the names of a Buddha is Triyadvajna in Sanskrit, which means knower of the 3 times, one who exists and lives in the 3 times. So when you become a Buddha, you no longer are stuck in a present moment. Or rather, let's say your present moment encompasses all past and future moments. You remember, Jaidev, when Buddha was under the Bodhi tree, before he attained nirvana, the way the story is told, he had a memory of infinite previous lives. He realized he had been every other conceivable type of being. And then that was the first big, expansive, explosive realization he had. And then the second one was he realized all the other beings had also had innumerable previous lives. So he had been with all of them, all of the time, And in doing that, therefore, that means he somehow existed simultaneously in all of those past moments. And at the same time, he also saw all of the future destinies of every being. So he existed in a way in all the future moments as well. So in doing that, he became a being, a 3 times being, one who exists in all states of time. Now, then, it isn't like the beings are going to unfold their karma, their evolutionary activity. I consider karma like an evolution theory. And their evolutionary activity, they're not going to do that in some mechanical way, like a big machine will just unfold at its own time. There's ways of helping them accelerate their unfolding of karma where they can also become free of suffering. So he saw they would become that in the future, and he saw that he would help them in all kinds of future manifestations to optimize and to get there as fast as they could possibly get there in an evolutionary sense. It's like a gardener who will increase the growth speed of the rose from the seed and the sprout and the stalk, but you can't just pull the rose out of the seed. But you optimize the conditions within which it will grow itself much faster than otherwise. And so that was the Buddha's solution to the Bodhisattva's problem, in the sense that all the other beings are enlightened with the Buddha's enlightenment in their future time, but their future time is his immediate time. It's his own immediate time. That's the thing. So, but then there's a final complication is that then turning the wheel of it is he keeps himself present in the time with them, and he turns their own time into a kind of machine for them to evolve to where they can become aware of their own freedom, blissfulness, lovingness, and wisdom. And so then that's called the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time, and that is one of the unexcelled yoga tantras of the Buddhists, in which Buddha shows his body is made of time. So his fingernail, he has 24 hands and the 5 fingers, and so 5 times 24 and it all adds up to the 365 days of the year and this sort of thing. The 12 arms are the 12, 2-hour sessions of the 24 hours, et cetera, et cetera. 24 arms, I'm sorry, of the 24 hours of the day. I mean, every aspect of the Buddhist body is time. And he shows that's therefore the most marvelous time machine form. Kalachakra really means time machine, but it's not a machine like you travel around in time as if time was a undisturbable, unchangeable, rigid thing. You use time as a machine to help beings evolve into Buddhahood. And it's quite marvelous. I think in world religious terms, it is a way of making time into compassion, rather than time as the impermanent destroyer, as an usual way in which and in Buddhism as well, usual way you see time as something destructive because you get old, you die, time, everything is impermanent.
So instead, everything is
that's
evolving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think it was an esoteric teaching, and in a way it still is a little bit of an esoteric teaching, because if people feel that they're in the best of all possible worlds, if they feel that, then some people will misunderstand that. That's what Voltaire ridiculed in his book Candide. He ridiculed the idea of best of all possible worlds to ridicule monotheistic faith. You remember?
Yes.
But the thing is, because some people will misinterpret that as meaning that they should just accept everything as it is and not try to do anything positive. And then others might misunderstand it to think whatever bad thing they do, it doesn't matter because it's the best of all possible worlds. So therefore, it's a kind of an esoteric teaching. But maybe in this present day, it should be more well known by people, because we're in a completely different moment on the planet, really, than they were in ancient time.
Do you think
so? That's the turning of the wheel of time. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Do you think that is why His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, is been putting so much emphasis on doing these big Kalachakra initiations, because these types of teachings, it's very important for us, perhaps at this time in the evolution of our species. Not only, for instance, we're in kind of what really might be more of like a mini crisis right now. As you mentioned, when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, it's almost as potentially a warm up for the impending, really, climate crisis that's just right with us. Do you think that some of these like Kalachakra, but also other teachings really from all over the planet that have been really kept more secretive historically, now it's important that they're more available and really becoming, I think, and I don't know if it's because of the evolution of consciousness collectively, but even less esoteric, meaning that we're ready to understand these things. It's not that they need to be kept hidden in the way that perhaps historically maybe there was a good reason for that. What do you think?
Yes, I do think so. There's the famous Catholic thinker Teilhard de Chardin, who had his idea of Omega Point, which is where they get the Omega Institute out of, And he saw things as coming to a point where there would be kind of heaven on earth. And all of the apocalypticism in the different traditions, you have the Mahdi, and you have the hidden Imam, and you have for the Sufis and the Shiites and so forth. And you have the second coming for the Christians, and you have Kalki for the Hindus, So a lot of people have this kind of idea of a culminatory time. And I think that certainly Tibet has seen a major destruction of its whole spiritual culture, which was its place where it preserved the Buddhist culture of India, actually. It's Buddhist sciences, spiritual sciences of India, the Buddhist side of the spiritual sciences of India, and so on. It saw a complete destruction And yet that's caused it to sort of spread really worldwide in a certain way. And so I think there is, and also when he himself does the Kala Chakra, or when the people attend it, even if they're not prepared by the prerequisite understandings to perform the yogas of the Kala Chakra, nevertheless, the initiatory sort of atmosphere of it gives them a kind of hope, and they see an end of time that is positive, instead of this sort of seemingly very destructive thing where there's a negative end of time that's going on at the moment, And so I think that's why he had he didn't do it just on his own kind of ingenuity, let's say. He had dreams where the mother goddess of the Kala Chakra, Mrs. Kala Chakra, I call her, who is Vishwamata is her name, the variegated, the multifarious mother, the variegated mother, who is a being who has no atoms, who her body is made of complete subtle plane that requires no atoms. Please keep that door closed, okay? Has no atoms. And she came to him in dreams, and she said, Tenzin Gyatso, dear Tenzin Gyatso, Your Holiness, you might think of doing a lot more Kala Chakras. Usually a Dalai Lama and a Panchen Lama do once or twice in their lifetime. Really? And that's it in Tibet, in the tradition. But he's done it 34 times now. And wow. And he may do more, I think, but not for a while. He's declined a number of invitations for the moment. And I think that's kind of the case. I think the next one should be in Beijing, actually, which will mark the end of the kind of horrible genocide that has been going on in Tibet and Uyghur country and Mongolia and so on up until now. I think so. But it's also like on a more exoteric level, the teaching of emptiness, of voidness, freedom. This teaching was considered almost very bad to teach someone who was who would misunderstand it as nihilism. Yes. As meaning that everything is nothing. They would mistake emptiness for nothingness. And so you were not supposed to teach that to someone who wasn't prepared, because they would get nihilistic, which is considered very bad. However, the world's elite, the scientists and the people, the business people educated by the scientists from the universities and so forth, they're already nihilists. So in a way, there's no danger in teaching emptiness as a cure to nihilism, you could say, and so it can be more widely taught, freedom, and it's less likely to lead to nihilism nowadays, So I think this other one has to be. And the other thing is, of course, the planetary problem that we have of the climate, which is the bigger crisis within which this corona apocalypse, I call it. The corona apocalypse is a small introduction, rather huge, but it's small. But that one, my personal feeling is the reason people don't take these strong steps needed to fix it, to stop the level of pollution that is so destructive. The reason they don't do it is that they think it's impossible to do, where everyone is conditioned and brainwashed to feel hopeless, that they can't get anything done, that they have no power. Yes. People don't vote in democracies because they are brainwashed that their vote doesn't count. People think that what they think doesn't count, that it doesn't make any difference to other people. And so I think that the strong reinforcement that everything matters, everything counts, everyone's mind has supreme power, actually, and not to fear, and also be happy, These are, I think, what people need to get this idea, I think. Yeah. That's just my simple-minded idea. But because I like to have fun, probably. I'm rationalizing my own enjoyment of fun, I was just reading.
I don't think that's what you're doing.
You don't think so? Oh, good.
No,
well, I think you're good at having fun. I think you're good at having fun.
I'm always getting better. I'm always getting better.
You have tea in that calabash?
I have like some mate from. Yeah, like some mate
Oh,
with
that's
some
so cool.
some tulsi inside. Yeah.
It looks like a calabash or something. That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I only
maybe.
have a teacup.
Hey, one thing I think
I
about
love your, yeah.
yeah, well, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say one thing and this may take us a slightly different direction, but I think very much related. One thing I think about, and I think for all of us, practically speaking, in terms of the passage, not really so much the passage of time, but
Yes.
even when we think about or when we're dealing with our challenging emotions and habits, that the habits that we have discovered for ourselves to be not useful, and yet we keep doing them over and over and over again. It's not usually so much that we don't know what we want to do, as much as we continue to do this same things
Yes.
that we've been doing, even regardless of
Right.
our better intent. And in a certain way, and
Yes.
even from the yogic perspective, that is the past that is now kind of overpowering my present or my intent for my future.
Okay.
So when it becomes very practically speaking, with all of us around the world, many of us, our normal routines have been very much disrupted. And while that is difficult, as yogis or as just people who are endeavoring to experience reality and experience what is real, there's also a great asset in this particular disruption of time right now. And it is very much because it's changed our activities. It also changes our perception of the flow of time in a certain fundamental way. And then we can have the opportunity to observe, okay, how is the flow of the thoughts and feelings and emotions and desires and then turning into my behavior. Now I potentially have a different angle or a slightly different lens that I can actually see my own flow passage of time in the expression as thoughts and feelings and emotions, and then perhaps actually now redirect. Because in perhaps an ordinary way of thinking of feelings and emotion, if I have anxiety, or if I have fear, or if I have depression, or if I have chronic anger, we look at those as negatives. But there also can be potential allies, potential positives. Just the same way as the thought of, at some point, I'm going to die. I'm going to leave this particular body. At some point, that's definitely going to happen. Although yet I continue to behave at times as if that isn't going to happen. And that connects deeper to everything all the way to, for instance, climate crisis. We, in a certain way, we know that we have a mortality in the context of our current physical existence, and yet somehow it's really difficult to believe it. But if I can do a little better at recognizing the reality of that, then it actually changes how I interact with life itself. And to me, all that connects into this wheel of time and this kind of, it's got to be. I was listening to the Dalai Lama talk. He was being interviewed. I was just watching videos yesterday, just kind of getting my mind tuned to what we may be talking about.
Good. Yes.
And he was saying that before the Kala Chakra initiation, he gives his talks on really just fundamental practices of Buddhism, fundamental practices of working with the mind and so forth. And he was saying how, there's thousands and thousands of people who come to this. Everybody loves the idea of an initiation. And of course, I recognize the initiation as very important and powerful, and I'm sure he does too. But his point was, to him, he was saying the most important part was the preliminary, just fundamentals of practice.
Absolutely. He always tells people that during the thing. Yes, he always tells people that.
He says it's a little trick. He says he thinks it's a positive trick, but it's a little trick.
Yeah, right. He always says that. He says, he said at the beginning, he says, he doesn't do it right at the beginning, but when he gets to the initiation part, just after having given the preliminary teaching about compassion, the bodhisattva, this kind of thing, he then says, now you've had the more important teaching. And now we're going to do this initiation because that's what brought you here. And you wouldn't have come to this other teaching that I just gave. But this initiation really, out of 500,000 of you here, there might be 2 who can actually practice it. And I don't think I'm really even capable. I'm not really capable of really transmitting it. People say that. I love that. It's just, I'm not even fit to do it, and none of you are really fit to practice it, but we just do it anyway. It's a good thing, and it gets you to come here and learn this other more important thing, he says. And then he always says that in the reason he does Kalachakra particularly is that the excuse is that in the mythical country of Shambhala, which is somewhere up near the North Pole or something, a magical country under a force field that no one can see, but that emerges at the sort of final moments of this positive narrative, that is in the Wheel of Time teaching. And he says there every year.
Some other dimension?
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be on Earth, but in a way it's enfolded in another dimension, so no one on Earth can see it until a certain time comes. Then it becomes visible to everybody, actually. And then actually some negative people invade it, actually, as soon as they get aware of it. The corporations want to go and dig for gold or mine for oil in it or something. And when that happens, then there's a big problem, and then everything is fine. Then it's all over. The negative, greed-driven industrial world changes, according to the legend. And so he says they do that once a year to the whole community, the whole society, the whole nation, which supposedly has 96 million subjects in that kingdom. It's not a small little hidden valley like Shangri-La. It's like a huge country with 96 different provinces, each one of 1 million people. And in the legend, or whatever it is, And so he always says that. It's very sweet, really. Although he is highly qualified, I consider, and it does create a wonderful temporary bubble when he does it. That is, I've been 20 times or something. If he would, I would drop everything and go again. Just because, even though I can't really properly do it, but I will properly do it someday. I know that. Just not quite yet. Unless we all stay on this retreat for another few years, then I might, But there's all kinds of other, as you said, there's routine things that we do, Yes, well, I hope people now who are suffering about this coronavirus retreat and lockdown and so on and worrying, and of course we all feel for people who have lost loved ones. That's really very, very difficult. But in a way, they should, even like the Irish, for example, when someone dies in the family, they have a big party, and they all get drunk, and then they send the person off with a joyful party, And we because we live in denial of death, when we're forced to face it, we get all gloomy about it, and we make an unnecessary thing about it. It's actually a very natural process. And we also, of course, we're taught that that's the end of that person forever, which is, of course, false, obviously. And but even there, they shouldn't be that frightened about it, because at least the person is not in pain. If they believe the person becomes just nothing, then at least they're a happy nothing, in the sense of they don't have pain, they're not going to hell or something like that, which is why they developed that doctrine that, the scientific materialists offer you the salvation of nothingness, which is at least a salvation from the fear of hell, and that's why it's so persuasive, that doctrine, But it's a nonsense, unevidenced doctrine. It has no one has ever proved it, and no one ever will prove it.
Right.
So so even there, they shouldn't be that upset about it. but they do get upset about it. And so I like what you said. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's said to be 3 roots of developing knowledge of impermanence, which is considered a really very valuable knowledge. It's kind of an initiation in itself. And the first root is to meditate. I really am going to die, which we might think is gloomy and morbid. But actually, it's very joyful when you really face it. I really am going to die. At first, when you're told that you should meditate on that, you think, what nonsense, I know that. Why should I meditate on it? But when you then begin to meditate, you realize what you said was correct, that you go around denying it. You're going around in denial of it. Oh, yeah, next year, I'm going to go do some Kundalini with Jayadeva next year. Oh, and after I retire, after I finish making $1 million over here, I'm going to go there. You act like we're going to be just like this forever. And nobody knows that. So the point is, we live in denial that we're going to die. And therefore it sneaks around behind us and makes us scared. If we say, I am going to die, then what? Then actually the fact that I'm not dead yet is kind of joyful. That's right. If I'm sure I'm going, well, I didn't go now. So that's already one blessing I can count. Right?
Yes.
Then the second root is, so the certainty that I'm dying is the first root, really important. The second root is, there's no certainty when it will happen. It could happen anytime. So then the moment becomes more intensely valuable when you think of that, right? You want every moment should be quality moment. If you could lose your life at any time, you want to have the best moment you could possibly have, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that saying by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross? Was really neat what she said. She said she'd been with 10,000 people and helping them in the process of dying.
Mm-hmm.
And she never met a single one who said, oh, I'm so sad I won't be able to spend another day at the office. Not one.
Of course.
Exactly. So they what do we want? We want to be with our loved ones. We want to be, doing something meaningful. We want to do some yoga, develop some sort of sense of beauty, sense of happiness, sense of kindness, sense of friendliness, whatever it is, that's what we want. Then the third root is, of course, about the soul, that when I do go, what goes is my subtle, deep inner heart, my inner pattern, my inner openness, actually, my inner lovingness, my inner acceptance of reality, my wisdom, Yes. And so then that's where my major investment in life should be. That's the highest thing to do, is to develop that, because that's what you take with you, right? You don't take your money, you don't take your ordinary body, you don't take your wardrobe, you don't take your existing relationships in any obvious way. Actually, I think you do take all your existing relationships, but there'll be something new completely in the future. And so you take your love with you, for sure. You take your love with you.
Yes.
It takes you. We'll put it that way. If you're lucky, it takes you. I think so. Those are called the 3 roots, and it's considered, when you have those 3 roots, that you're going to be a happy camper. You're going to be happy. So, for example, in the coronavirus, the people who are on retreat, well, they have to worry about food and lodging and debts and payments and whatever. But, yes, within that, they should be happy, and they should seek to solve those problems from the point of view of can do, this is great, I'm alive at least, this kind of thing.
Yeah. Right. And that's where...
Yeah.
Yes, please. That's where the practices come in. So how can I go from that, theoretical understanding of it, makes sense to me, yet it may or may not be what I'm experiencing. So therefore, then so they devise these just tremendous, whether it's the yogic, it's all the yogic stuff, but whether it's coming through the Tibetan Buddhist context or otherwise, these phenomenal just ways of, okay, let's see if we can like move this in this way, push that in that way, to where the actual inner environment is adjusted, that turns that theoretical into an experiential knowledge, to where it's undeniable. It's undeniable to know that the things that are important, that will be important to me at the time of my dying or your dying, are the exact things that are truly important to me now. And what is seemingly important to me, but in reality, non-important whatsoever, that's going to be completely apparent to us at the time of death. And so back into this time idea, that time of dying and the present moment, they're intertwined. They're not two separate things. They don't exist without each other. And therefore the future and the past and the present are all intertwined into this moment right now. And that's what the meditation practice gives us experiential knowledge of. So it's not, that's why to me, I know that when you're speaking this and it's coming so, just beautifully, purely from your heart, it's coming from some level of experience. Definitely.
Sure.
That's undeniable. And
it's a little bit. But who knows? I don't claim a thing. But listen, would you lead us in the meditation like that? I would really like that if you would do that.
Oh, right now you want to try something?
Why don't you give people lead us? I would like to follow a meditation you lead, where you think that you simulate that we're all at the moment of death.
Yes.
And then how would we open up inner chakras and inner hearts and things? I would love it if you would do that, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, why not? Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's try something. Okay, so everyone can come with just hands in your lap, your right palm into the left, thumb tips touching. If you can't be seated, a chair is fine as well. Feet flat on the floor. Chest is slightly out. Chin is slightly in. Okay, good. And then close the eyes down. And simply just bring awareness to the natural flow of the breath. You can feel the weight of the body on the floor, on the chair. You can sense the earth element as it expresses itself via your tissues, via your bones, your muscles. You can sense the water element as it expresses itself in the fluids of the organism. The watery environment of the eyes, the saliva, the plasma, rasa, juice. You can sense the fire element as it expresses itself, the warmth of the body, the blood, digestive warmth, metabolism. You can sense the air element via the flow of the breath. Just simply allowing your awareness to observe your organism respirating. not necessarily making the breath any deeper. Just observe and watch your body respirate. Wind, air. Air element as the flow of the nerve current, as your brain sends signals via the nervous system throughout the organs, throughout the body, throughout the organism. And then you can sense the ether akasha space, the channels, the channel that begins at the mouth, ends at the anus, the channels of the circulatory system. In the space that we all dwell in, Akash. And now simply imagine as if it were the final moments of your life. And the earth element starts to dissolve into water. Imagine the body is losing its feeling of solidity. Become unable to move the limbs. Almost an out-of-body sensation. And out of this, a feeling of fluidity emerges. And then water starts to dissolve into fire. And that feeling of fluidity becomes more like a warm mist. And the body fluid slowed. The mouth and the eyes are dry. Circulation is starting to be sluggish. The blood pressure drops. As fire now dissolves into the air, the body temperature drops. The skin becomes cool. And there's a feeling of weightlessness, without boundaries, clairvoyance. A sort of bliss starts to emerge, no longer bound by the denser elements. And then air starts to dissolve into ether. The exhale becomes longer than the inhale. Long pauses between each breath. As we start to experience a sense of pure consciousness, clear light. Limitless space. Now bring your awareness back into the breath. And the breath starts to flow back into the body. There's a sense of wind, a sense of air. You feel a warmth come back into the blood and back into the skin, revitalized with vigor, with vitality. The digestive processes continue. The metabolism reinvigorated, recalibrated, rebalanced. A sense of fluidity reemerges, moisturized all through the organism. Good juice, good plasma, good water. Hydrated, taken care of, loved. Sense of inner confidence, sense of inner strength, sense of inner contentment, sense of inner fulfillment. And this flow of natural creativity, inspiration, dharma. And the edges are becoming once again defined, a feeling of solidity, stability, earth element, earth energy. Tissues strong, well protected. Ahankara, feeling well protected. Mamsa. The body organs strong, healthy. The immune intelligence infused with good life force prana, energy of intelligence itself, protecting you, knowing what is not you, eliminating what is not natural to the organism, any pathogens, well protected. And take a deep inhalation through the nose. And suspend it. And exhale through the nose. And again, inhaling deeply. And exhale. Good. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Make your fingers nice and tight and firm. Drop the shoulders. Stretch through the spine. Exhale. And relax. Open the eyes. Have some water. Have some tea. Satnam. That's just a little simple snippet of a meditation. I think next weekend we'll have lots of time to do more, and with also some of the yogic exercises, and to go into some of that space where we can utilize yogic practices. In the mornings, in the first session of the day, I'll be teaching. Friday evening next weekend, Bob and I will both start the retreat. Next weekend we'll do a full online retreat. And then how the days are going to work next weekend is in the morning time, from 9 to 11 Pacific, I'll be teaching. It'll be Kundalini Yoga, meditation, this type of thing. And then in the afternoon from 1 to 3 Pacific time, that's 4 to 7, Bob will be teaching. And then in the evenings on both Saturday, and that's both Saturday and Sunday, and in the evenings starting 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we'll both be back. So like a structure of a normal retreat, but we'll be all online together. So we're very excited. I'm personally very excited and looking forward to that. This will be the first time for me, since we've all been in this quarantine space, that we've done lots of classes, but we haven't yet really done a full focused retreat where we're able, or at least where I'm able to immerse myself in the teachings, in the practices for a couple days straight without much interruption. And
and working together, going back and forth like that. And the music is great. I never had music. That's terrible. That was so nice. It's so helpful, the music.
Yeah.
Who was that? Who was the woman?
That's my wife.
Yeah,
that's Simrit. Yeah.
Smrt. But
Simrit.
Smrt, how do you pronounce it?
Simr. Yes, Simrit. Simrit. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I love great. that spot at Menla. I used to do Ayurveda, clinical Ayurveda, and worked in worked in Panchakarma centers for years. And when I went to the Menla spa, I said it's by far the most beautiful, and not just beautiful in the aesthetic, but just the vibe, just the whole thing. I think the most beautiful healing center I've ever been in is at the Menla Center.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so sweet. It is really. My wife made it. Like your wife sang, my wife made the building. And we had some Tibetan artists. The Tibetans have a beautiful thing on the medicine Buddha thing, which I think got lost in India when Buddhism got lost. But it was originally from India, by Guru, his name, the medicine teacher. And it turned a deep blue color, it's really quite wonderful, But I really like that. The moisture and the skin turning cold, and that's perfectly beautiful, The Tibetans have an eightfold thing, where you have different inner visions and so on. That fits very closely with that. I liked it. And when we do the retreat, we'll work a little bit with the chakras, I think. We'll try to set up some chakra things, central channel and chakra and things like that.
Yeah, how about we start with that on a Friday evening? We'll do that, and maybe every evening we can go a little deeper into it.
Yeah, sure. We should definitely.
I think it's such a great thing for us all to practice. Can you imagine if we have never done any meditation? If we go through a human life without ever having any meditation practice or any sort of experience of our consciousness that is outside of its ordinary kind of embodied state.
Right.
I always sense to then go through the dying process without practice, without any preparation, would probably be
do it every night when we fall asleep. When we fall asleep every night, we do it. But people would usually wait till they're so tired that they just pass out. But actually, you go through that every night. You let go of it. You let go of the different levels of your awareness as you fall asleep at night, and you do feel a little cold when you get into the wind. Actually, I use the word wind because in the Sanskrit traditions, Hindu as well as Buddhist, I think the Vayu. The wind is defined as chala, motion. So air has an idea of something static, there's air, but it doesn't move. But that's akasha, that's the space. But the wind is always moving. It's motion. And so when we fall asleep, the reason we want to snuggle in the covers and we want even a sheet if it's very hot weather, is that our body gets cool when we fall asleep because we're moving more just into the wind area.
Yes.
And then we go. Then we have a dream. We rise in a dream. We have a dream body. And I have a friend. Are you watching online, Lynn? You watching? Oh, good. Oh, great. So you see this thing on the line? That's so fascinating. It's really great, the way you and Josh and Akil, you say, is the guy who runs the tech. We should all be grateful for the tech. We should all be really grateful for the tech people.
Yeah,
I think that I'm not necessarily a big Facebook person. I don't really use it in these things, and they are being abused a bit, by the political types. But they're wonderful. I love to have a global mind. Imagine if people could, even without the coronavirus, if you could lead that meditation for 3 million or 20 million people. They could sit there with their phones instead of playing some bleep, 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 bop, 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 boop, 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 shooting game. They could actually sit and feel their own moisture of their own and the vitality in their own body, or some different, even better, more noble structures than the normal ones, and so on. In other words, that's technically possible. It's not politically happening quite yet, but here we're doing something that's wonderful, and it really should be the case. It should be the case. This group mind, through how many billion people on Facebook, and we should be aware of all the suffering of the people in the refugee camps and things, and they're able to get online at least, and we should be able to see all of them and deal with it. And there's no compassion fatigue at all if you stay happy. If people really understood compassion, Carl Sagan made a thing about, we can't really see so many refugee camps and wars and terrible things on the news because we get compassion fatigue, he said. But that's not true.
There's
you don't
no
get
limit.
If you know what compassion is. If you know what compassion is, you realize that the more you see, the more you have to be happy, because you can't do anything about it if you're paralyzed with grief just from thinking the wrong thing. They are actually paralyzed with direct hardship and suffering, and you're not going to help them unless you're happy yourself.
That's the root. That's the foundation. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's that inner bliss, that vitality, that moisture. That when you came back, when your wife started singing, you started feeling vitalized, and you were giving people back a feeling to pay attention to their own life force and their energy.
Yes.
Because people naturally have life force and energy. Even if they're on the brink of death, they still feel inside there's something that, one cell still likes another until the bitter end.
It's so simple.
Our body itself is a massive cooperation of many micro beings. So did you dig the microbiome?
Oh my, yeah! What a trip, right? Yeah, and the gut and everything.
We only have 23,000 genes, and the microbiome has a billion genes of different creatures in there. They're all hopping around, and they really like it when the music started.
Right. Well, that's kind of the idea of all of Ayurveda, isn't it? Is that really, at its essence, Tibetan medicine, same difference. It
is Ayurveda, same deal.
Yeah, is that how do we get the organism to blissful, essentially? But I think sometimes that word bliss, and maybe in a moment you can unpack the context for how you think of it when we talk bliss. But essentially, how do we get the organism to cooperate? In order for it to get to cooperate, she has to become content. And if there's inner discontent, then she's going to take over our sense organs and drag us outside of ourselves in order to, in an endeavor to try to find contentment elsewhere. But of course, we can never find contentment elsewhere. We can only get short-term stimuli externally, but then that will action and reaction will leave us with an equal and opposite gap.
Although actually external is also good if it's not external. In other words, you give yourself to the external. Well, what I mean is that if you give yourself to the external. You see, when we're the way we experience external beauty, for example, we tend to want to grasp it and own it in some way, and then we can't keep it forever. So then we get frustrated and discontented, and that's sort of the Buddhist thing about the suffering of pleasure, which is that it doesn't last, which is it's impermanent, and doesn't last. But because we're grasping at it, and therefore the moment of beauty that we had with it, we want to grasp a hold of it, and that immediately squashes it, But if you're more open, and you see a beautiful thing, or you look even at the sky or the field with the grass in it and so on, or the trees, and you just go with that, and you don't try to own it, but you let it have you. You give yourself to it. Then it doesn't wear out, and it's not impermanent. I discovered this in a famous sutra, the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which is in Pali. It's a Theravada. It's a text of the dualistic Buddhists. because Buddha did teach dualism for people who needed that, who couldn't imagine that the world as it is, if you understand it, is nirvana. That the non-dual thing was too much for them. So instead he taught like, oh yeah, there's nirvana, you can find it, because they were so certain that there was something wrong with them, that the only way they could imagine being really content and happy is to get out of themselves into a pure space of some kind, like a space with no one else to bump into, right? Like a nirvana like that. So he let them think that, because of course when you get there, then you get so bored you want to come back. So what I'm saying is, but in that sutta, the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the final thing where it's the focus of mindfulness on the mental functions, you go to the Four Noble Truths, and then finally you get to nirvana, third noble truth. And then before that you did the first noble truth, which is the suffering, and there you see that visual impression and audio and olfactory and gustatory and tactile and even mental impression, 6 senses, that they all unsatisfactory because they don't last, and even the pleasant ones, and of course the painful one is painful, and the neutral one is like, it just doesn't last either, and then the pain interferes. So they go on about, oh, you don't need any of that. But then they come to the third noble truth, nirvana, and then they say, well, where is nirvana? And Buddha is leading this as a guided meditation to his mendicants, his monks. And he says, well, where is it? And then he gives the same list of all the sense impressions. Exact same list. Visual, audio, all of them. Mm-hmm. But the one difference is that there's no craving at the time of the third noble truth. So in other words, one is just content with whatever it is. Mm-hmm. One lets oneself go with it all, and one doesn't try to crave more while one is, instead of enjoying what one has, if you follow me, which is the secret of contentment, right? Count as a half full glass, And it's right there in the dualistic thing. So he doesn't say, oh yeah, nirvana's over there. If you go past space, then you shoot over there and like a rocket, and then you're in oh wow, it's all great. He doesn't say that. He says it's right in all the same things that we're suffering when your craving is pushing you around. So I really was thrilled. There was a loud sound I made. I was in Sri Lanka at the time because I was reading this in honor of the Sri Lanka Theravada Buddhists, and because that's their thing. And, I'm a Mahayana, non-dual, this is nirvana, if we only knew, and we're going to know, and all this kind of thing, and it actually is nirvana. So I'm just saying that and I think Kundalini, Tantra is all totally based on non-duality. Cannot have Tantra without it, because the body is not a temple. It's not a divinity. I love it. You said she is discontent. Mm-hmm. So that's she Kundalini, the goddess in your body, which is your life energy, the matrix of your existence. She's discontented, but she's not discontented because there isn't beauty in the world. She's discontented because I'm not going to say you, because I don't mean that personally, but we say because we are not really, we are like always want something more, so we don't enjoy what we have, so we're therefore constricting her in some way, and we're imprisoning her, and therefore she's discontented, and she pushes us into whatever distraction to get us away, and she can escape maybe from being imprisoned in our self-concept that we must be miserable. Yes. I really think that human cultures imprison people and they actually practically terrorize them, that the human being is something malfunctioning thing, the planet is no good, can't support enough people, and we have to kill off a bunch or we won't have any food, and all the cultures with their violence and their greed and their discontent are terrorizing people. And people like Guru Nanak and Buddha and Dalai Lama and like many other great, I guess Yogi Bhajan is one of you people in your lineage, they are trying to get people to find their own inner energy and their inner life force, which is bliss, actually. I consider health is actually bliss. It's the bliss of the microbiome. It's the bliss of the cells. And yet we impede it, and then this culture impedes it. The culture tells us that, life sucks. It's a veil of tears. Later you'll be happy after you die. If you're this and that religion, you go with this God or that God or with Buddha even, then you'll be fine later. But now you're just going to be miserable. And so being wise is surrender to your misery. But I think that's completely false. And we have to go beyond being terrorized like that. And what you did with your meditation, you introduced people to the juiciness of their own body. And even you had them, when they left it, they were in a clear light, in a pleasant light, clear light of bliss, no problem. Right? And then came back, and then the body was feeling better. It brought a little feeling of clear light with it. Yeah, but of course, that's from non-dual point of view. The body is made of clear light. We're all made of clear light. And if we knew what we were made of, we were all made of the same infinite, inexhaustible energy of love, actually. And everybody agrees who really took a good look at it.
That's so great.
I think even people take religion and add it to the terrorization. Somebody told this funny story. They went to some Tibetan monastery. They were looking for the abbot, and they met the treasurer of the monastery, the manager. And he said, "Where's the abbot?" He said, "Oh, he's in town." And then they said, "Well, what's he doing in town?" And he said, "Oh, he's terrorizing the population." He said, "What do you mean by that?" And he's saying, "Well, he's telling them that if they don't behave, they're going to have a bad fate." So that's the sort of
he's terrorizing the population.
Like if you're a sinner, that's like that's like the preacher saying, "You sinners are all going to hell if you don't do this and that." That's terrorizing.
Yes.
And everybody does it. And the people, the oil industry and the food industry is ruining the planet because that's based on their theory that somehow by itself the planet is not there to take care of us. Meanwhile, and they're cutting down all the trees, and all the trees are trying to do is take up our carbon and give us back oxygen.
Yes.
They all love us. Yes. Right? When you were taking that deeper breath, that was the gift of the plants. And then our carbon is not just trash. If it's in the right proportion, it's going back, and they're making leaves and fruits and roots and everything out of the carbon. So we're in this wonderful plant world, this garden, right? So that's the medicine Buddha vision, I think, and Ayurveda vision is that nature is nice. Nature loves us. I think, although there are versions in India that also terrorize. I don't think it's an East-West thing, and in China there are. But right, I think the enlightened people, the yogis found out mostly.
Right. Every culture, every tradition, every religion has its distorted expression of that, but everyone has its nucleus. That's, and I love that. I love the Buddha Dharma so much because it's so easily, secular even, and like these things. Yeah. We're past the point that this stuff can be religious. This has to be where all human beings. If you breathe, you qualify. And we're. That's it. It's simple. It's simple.
Absolutely. Om Ahum. Om Ahum.
Well, let's tell everybody a little bit about next weekend. How about?
Okay, please do.
Yeah, so we're and everybody who's watching online, all the information is on the webpage that you're watching this on too. But so we're going to start. It's the full retreat, Turning the Wheel of Time, and we're starting on Friday. This coming Friday, April the 24th.
Yes.
in the evening, or evening for the East Coast. What is it? Yeah, 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. And then you can calculate there, because I know we have people all over the world who are with us today. And so the first session, I know, isn't it? It's so cool. And so the first session will both be together. And then we'll continue where we're leaving off. Friday night. Yes, sir. Then the next 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, we'll have the same format. So it'll be three sessions a day. I'll teach in the morning, 9 to 11 Pacific. So that's 12 to 2 Eastern. And we'll be doing yogic exercises, meditation, and I'll be teaching in that way as I do. And then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, you're on, Professor. That's Professor Bob will be teaching. Yep, and those are 2-hour sessions. And then in the evening, we'll all come together. Right. Good. Tenzin Bob, I love it. Okay, I love it.
Frightening it to death, and they are not really getting out and having themselves locked up in front of the White House, except a very few. Although Colombia is really good. You know, James Hansen, who started the first thing about global warming, he is a Colombia guy. You know, he had an institute of climate they have, and they have Earth Institute there. So I have to say that's good. But on the other hand, this materialism dogma is really no good. Everybody has to realize that, you know, even if they die, they have to die happy because they want to be reborn happy. And they're going to be reborn. There's no way out. So it's time to face that fact, because that's another powerful reason to be happy now. It's not like, oh, I want to have a future life so I can be happy in the future. It's by knowing that I have a future life, I'm going to be happy now, so I'll be sure to keep being happy in the future. It's more like that, you know.
Yes.
And whereas if everything is nothing, ultimately, then why make really fuss about anything, you know? You know, I mean, it's all going to be nothing anyway. You know, so you might as well just like drink Coca-Cola and get diabetes and watch, you know, I don't know what, the news.
That's the whole problem.
Yeah. Yes, and so although I like to watch the news, although it's been very hard for the last 3 years to watch. Especially hard. Used to be a little more graceful, but now it's really hard. But there is humor. I do love Seth. What's his name? Who does a closer look? You know him?
Seth. Yeah, Seth Meyers. Yeah.
He does a closer look.
That's how I get my news. I get all my news from the comedians. I watch Jimmy Kimmel. I watch Seth Meyers, John Oliver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The artists.
They're the best. But you know, a lot of them don't, in the Comedy Channel, for example, a lot of them don't get played in the Midwest.
Oh, really?
Yes, and they don't. The TV people keep them out of the red states. You know, the poor red states, they don't know they're being made more miserable than we are, even though they try to make us miserable. Anyway, where are you? You're in Massachusetts, right? Your home base there?
No, I'm Northern California, Nevada City, California.
Oh, you're in California? We're sitting chatting with you in California? No kidding.
Amazing, right?
That's totally cool. I didn't know that. Where? Northern California?
Yeah, Northern. Have you been to Nevada? Have you been to Nevada City, Grass Valley area before?
Oh, sure. I visited Gary Snyder up there many years ago.
Gary Snyder lives up the road from us. Yes.
yeah. And then the people at Dick Baker in his heyday, he had a little Japanese house up there nearby Gary's place, walking distance from Gary's place.
So
all made by
you went up to
carpenters.
Kadizzi. You went to Gary's place and
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I had a funny time with him. At that time, he was married to the lovely Okinawan lady. And he had 2 kids with him, Kai and Gen. And he had a place made like a hogan, where you had a fire. He would light a fire, and then you'd have a council, like the ancient Pomo Indians or something. But one thing he neglected to do was create any draft place for the smoke to go. So we were having a council in there with some people when I was visiting, and the smoke was getting terrible. and so I left. I had to leave the council. I excused myself, and I was gasping for air outside in the outer room. And then his kids were out there laughing and giggling. And I said, well, you guys, what are you giggling about? I said, well, our dad always has councils with people who come in there, and then we wait to see who's the first one to be driven out by the smoke.
You're the first.
Well, no, he said, we like the ones who come out sooner are better because they're less afraid of leaving. The other ones want to stay in with the great poet, and their eyes are smarting with the smoke. And because he didn't think that the ancient Pomo Indians must have had a flu, for the smoke. Anyway, I love Gary Snyder. He's really great.
Yeah, he's a treasure.
A great poet of nature. He's a real treasure. Do you see him? How is he doing? Is his health good?
Yeah, I don't know. I know he stays. I think he probably just stays up there and watches the stars at night. I think he's probably pretty content up where it is. The winter of his life and up in his land. So
really,
yeah. But
really?
he's
maybe 90, huh? 88, late 80s.
Yep, something.
I think he's about 10 years older than me.
The two of you are similar in the sense that you both went to the eastern part of the world, even kind of pre-hippie movement, pre-consciousness movement of the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked his translations of some of the Japanese, the Zen people and things. Gary, I liked those. I loved his Turtle Island book that he wrote when he was married to the Okinawan lady. That was my favorite.
Yes.
He also he's very much scientific, evolution, biology, which makes you depressed. You get depressed if you're a materialist because there's not enough matter. It's not enough matter for everyone. So being like a convinced materialist is depressing. But some poetic souls can manage to be cheery anyway. But it's a depressing worldview. It really is. It's a reckless, psychotic, depressing worldview. It is. It all means nothing. It's all irrelevant. It's all stupid. They won't meditate because why? They're always meditating on nothing. So the thing is, how to cheer them up. That's what you're doing well there in Northern California. Can you hit that gong behind you?
Sure. You want me to?
Can you hit it? Yeah. I like to see it make a noise. Oh, that's really good.
Next weekend, it's kind of like, these are really great when you're doing also the death meditations because it uses the sound current and takes you into that bardo space. That's what the gong is good for, is going into that bar.
I have one.
We'll do that next week.
I have one up in the meditation. I'll bring mine too.
Good.
Lynn, we have to bring the gong down here. I love it. But I don't need it. You have it. And I love your music. And that's Smirt. I can say Smirt.
Yeah.
R is a semivowel.
Maybe
I
one
do.
evening.
I watched her.
You did?
She has Mongolian cheekbones. She has fabulous cheekbones. Wow.
She's going to love this. I'm sure she's watching. You'll love.
Well,
She is this bright. You know, she was singing the hymns of Nanak in that song, and
Really?
but she's such a bright spirit. You'll love her. Maybe we'll have her come sing live in the next weekend.
Why not?
Yeah.
If she would be kind to do that, that would be great. By the way, isn't this a big year for Nanak? Isn't this a big centennial or some kind of big thing for Nanak?
Yeah, but it is. I believe so. I know the BBC was doing a whole big thing, like a whole big important documentary that's coming out.
You should tell people about Nanak. He is so great. He was really, really wonderful. He proves that, you know, India doesn't have to be riven by intolerance between Muslims and Hindus, like the British created by making that separate country out of the Pakistan. You know, that was a real bad blow to the India, and then they got more like, you know, nationalist enemies, and that then added to the extremists in the religion side, and it made it worse. And but Nanak proves that they can get along just fine, and India has a tradition of getting along with other traditions. He was one of the proofs of that in the second millennium. After the Buddhists left, while the Buddhists were there, they were also doing that pretty much.
I know he traveled into Tibet. He traveled into Tibet as well. I think the Tibetans have a name for him. Yeah, Lama something. I had
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe so. And in fact, when I was in Dharamsala a few years ago, I talked to a Tibetan gentleman who was convinced that Nanak was an emanation of Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava. And I wouldn't doubt if that's the case, you know?
Listen, that's the Buddhist thing, is the way of getting over this problem is everybody's deity is emanating as everybody else's deity.
Yes, right.
So therefore, there's no problem. You know, instead of Allah versus Jehovah, they're in that case, of course, they are the same. But although you wouldn't know it from the way extremists behave, but you know, Lao Tzu emanated as Buddha. You know, Buddha emanated as Confucius. You know, not actually Buddha, but Manjushri emanated as Confucius. You know, Buddha is an emanation of Vishnu. Vishnu is an emanation of Avalokiteshvara. You know, that's the Indian thing. Is all that emanating.
It's the same stream of energy. Yes. You know, I went to this really beautiful exhibit in New York City last year at the Rubin Museum. Did that on time. And Padmas, did you go into that exhibit in New York City?
I missed it, although because I'm always working down the block at Tibet House. But they always have beautiful things. I love them. You know, I did their first book, you know, the Rubin Museum art book on Tibetan art, and I really loved them. And I loved Don Rubin, was really great. He was wonderful. He is wonderful. He's elderly now, like me, but he's really great.
Hey, I want to make sure that everybody knows how to register for the event next weekend. Everybody who's a part of this webcast, today's event, who registered, there's a really generous discount that's been provided. Also for all members of Tibet House, I want to encourage everyone to be a member and support the Tibet House, and all the members of our Life Force Academy. Also, the discount is significant, and in just our hope that as many people can come next weekend as possible. I think I know it's going to be a beautiful experience altogether. I'm now, especially now that we've done this, I'm really excited for just spending the whole weekend in the Dharma and the teachings with you, Tenzin.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you. Tenzin Bao.
Tenzin Bao.
Thank you, Jaidev.
Yes. And there's even a payment plan option if that makes it easier for some of you to attend. And all of this is on the website. And if you registered for this webcast, we'll follow up with you as well. But you can register now. It's open now, registration. And again, and this is really important because I know we have a lot of people in a lot of different time zones. This is both going to be streamed live, but then it's also available on demand. So you can take once the classes have happened, if you register for the online course, you'll have it forever. So even if you can't be there next weekend, if you register for the course, everybody will be able to download it or stream it both live and on demand. and indefinitely. So even months from now, you'll be able to revisit it. And so that's really great. And that's something, we don't normally have when, if we had the great blessing of being together in person right now, which we don't, at least we have this where we can be together this way, but also then it's all recorded and everybody can, have access to it for as long as they want. And so
that's great.
Yeah, I think that's the main things. And we're going to go, 3 sessions a day on Saturday and Sunday. And then the opening session will be Friday evening. And
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, great. And also, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. Well, I know everybody's at home. I brought 2 of my favorite books that I wanted to encourage everyone. Number 1, The Jewel Tree of Tibet.
No kidding.
I love this book. Okay. I haven't read all of your books, Tenzin, but I'm on my way. This one I love so much. Even just the introduction gave me so much historical and spiritual context, like the spiritual context interwoven with historical context is one of the things I think you provide us so beautiful, just in a way that I had never really clicked for me. I love this book, The Jewel Tree of Tibet. And then the other one I want to encourage people, because I think everybody's at home, they want good books to read. This Man of Peace. And this is an amazing, relatively new graphic novel on the life of the Dalai Lama that I know Bob and Michael as well over at Menla.
Yes, Michael worked on it, and Willie Meyer. Yes.
I
and
saw
Willie
this
Meyer's
years
late
ago.
wife started it.
It's really cool. It's it's an amazing it's amazing achievement, amazing work of art. And there's also on the webpage here, there's a donate button for Menla and Tibet House. Especially during this time, of course, we can't be having retreats at Menla right now. So if anyone out there has the means and is able to help out Tibet House, Menla, it would be super helpful to keep those organizations rolling and vital during a difficult time.
That's really great. That's really great. And you have a nonprofit. Is the Living for the Life Force thing?
We're not a nonprofit.
What is that?
We have our business, Life Force Academy, and we've been actually doing online yoga, meditation classes, teachings for many years. So right now, in this time, we were pretty well equipped to keep rolling and even this is. But that's part of what happens, isn't it? When have a constriction on us, it gives us. We've experienced a lot of new creativity in this time because when that kind of first limb of yoga is yamas, all right, where when you apply constriction, helps to concentrate the life force. And then when that life force is a little more concentrated, then the creativity starts to flow. And of course, ideally, it's flowing in a dharmic nature. And that's what we're always doing our best, to tune into.
Wonderful. This place that was given to us, it was given to Tibet House by a wealthy, very generous, kind person. To be a healing center, but before we were here, they had a certain plan for it, didn't work out, so they gave it to us. But before we were here, there was a lady here in this little valley in the middle of the Catskills who was a medium, and she had someone called the guide who she used to channel, and they wrote together 55 books. Sort of in our general vein, like this kind of yoga, but it was a completely different line from this being. And one of the names of it was the Center for the Living Force. That was
really?
The name of their organization.
Oh, how about that?
And then they changed. At one point, they changed the name to Pathwork Center. I don't know why, because I don't know their history that well. But the original name for this place was the Center for the Living Force. That was the center. So like life force. So you should always feel it's your center on the East Coast, Jaidev, whenever you come here. Please do.
Oh my
You're always
gosh.
so welcome here. We love having you.
We love it so much. We did our first event, our first event for us last August, and we couldn't have loved it anymore. And we're scheduled for this August, so God willing, we'll be able to be there. And if not, inshallah, we'll schedule again. But so people will get an experience next weekend of kind of like what we do in the Life Force Academy as well, in those morning sessions that I teach.
I'm going to take the morning session.
Okay, good. Sounds good. We have fun. Okay. Buddhists have more fun. Right. So
yeah.
Isn't that the book you're working on?
No, I already did it, but I don't know. My editor wants me to do a little something more. But yeah, that's the working title. I don't know if that will be the final title. Yeah, that's the working title. Buddhists have more fun.
Well,
not Buddhists. The Buddhists. There's a lot of miserable Buddhists. Believe me.
Like you say in this is like, it's not about the membership to the club. It's not about the membership.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Buddhas. And you can have Buddhas who are not Buddhist. That's the great thing about it.
Of course.
This means an enlightened, a wise and compassionate person. That's what it means. It's really great.
Well, I hope everyone's able to, or as many people as possible, of course, able to join us next week. And that too will help the organizations rolling forward. But we're also going to have a beautiful weekend. But today was a lot of fun, and especially to everyone out there who took part in it, thank you so much. Thank you to Justin. Thank you to Aki. Thank you to the Menla and Tibet House staff. It's been a lot of work to make this happen. Thank you to the Life Force Academy team.
Lynn and Joshua and Michael Burbank. And thank you to them. Yeah. And you, Joshua.
Our Joshua.
And thank you to Simrit. You know, Smriti. Do you know that Smriti means mindfulness? You know that?
I see.
Smriti. It means mindfulness, and it has other meanings in Sanskrit too, but it means mindfulness. And
it must have the same root.
It means memory. No, the actual word Smrt means memory.
That's it.
And so, for example, in Hindu scriptures, Smriti means, which is being, it's something remembered from the rishis. It's like some kind of scriptural thing, a holy thing. So Smriti is a wonderful name. How does she get that name?
That name was given to her by Yogi Bhajan, but the way it's contextualized, I think in the Gurmukhi, which is right in the resonance of how you're describing it, is remembrance of the Nam, remembrance of the sound, remembrance of
Sure.
And she embodies it very beautifully.
Yes, remembering where we really are, it's a way of knowing what we really are. And what we all really are is one great, giant, loving family. So that's remembering that. That's really wonderful. That's great.
Thank you so much, Tenzin. This was a great pleasure and honor for me to spend time with you.
Too.
And I'm very much looking forward to next weekend.
Me too. All the best. And all the best to all of you. Have a great day and a great week, and hope to see you again.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome. I'm Jaidev. So happy